Hi Reddit and YouTube and everybody. This video is just kind of a quick overview of my Hashflare SHA-256 mining calculator that I posted on our Hashflare here a little bit ago. I got a request for this video, and hopefully it'll be helpful getting you up to speed and using this quickly to make some predictions, do some forecasting of Bitcoin prices and stuff, and see how your mining contracts are going to play out in different scenarios. First, before I get started, obviously I kept my Hashflare referral link in here. If you are about to go buy hashrate on Hashflare and you'd like to use my referral link, I would really appreciate that. It took me about 40 hours to make this tool, so it'd be really cool if that came back to me a little bit. And it's obviously the same price to you. So there are a few things about this. Apparently, it doesn't really work to download it as an XLS. For me, using LibreOffice, if you get lucky with Excel and maybe it works for you, that's great. But you do need to be a little bit patient with this being in the cloud because it can be sometimes a little bit slow running on drive. So just FYI. On the setup, the very first thing it says obviously to do is go make a copy. So we're just going to go up here to File and make a copy. And we can just call it copy. That's fine. And then so I click OK, and we're going to go into our new copy. And it's going to take a second for the formatting. Yeah, there we go. All right, so now we have a nice new fresh copy of this, and I'll just delete this message to our Hashflare. If you go to edit anything in here that is in any of the locked cells, and I've locked them for you, you can unlock them, but I locked them so you don't make accidental edits. You just have to click OK, or you can say don't show again for 5 minutes if you want to make other changes and stuff. But actually, honestly, I locked them for myself too to make sure that I don't go change formulas unless I actually mean to. So anyway, so we did step 0. Let's do step 1. So in this tour, the next place we're going to go see is the mining data tab. So let's go over to mining data. And this is where we can put in our details about what we actually get from Hashflare. And this is very important. You need to make sure that you get in here the exact amount of payout you got, the exact fees that you paid, and ideally you get so specific as you look up the time and what the Bitcoin price was at that exact time that you did that you got your payout. You can put in up to 12 days in here. I just threw one in because it really shouldn't matter. You should be able to calculate just fine with just 1 day. Anyway, and then these are some things about your contract. Important, don't put in, if you upgrade hash rate partway through here, these numbers are going to change. So just put in ones since you upgraded hash rate. Don't put any from before, unless you want to go unlock these cells right here and make them refer to the specific hash rate of that day. Right now, they all just refer back up to this main hash rate. So you can get under the hood and change that if you need to. The important things that this tab is calculating are the Bitcoins per terahash per second per day. That's like the golden number of a lot of the spreadsheet. It all kind of hinges on this. So we need to know this number, and this gets calculated. Oh, I didn't say it, but the light gray cells are ones that you can edit. And they're going to be unlocked. The other ones, if I go try to type in them, they should be locked. Yeah, but we can go and type in these and mess them up if we want to. So that's great. The fees per terahash per second is important. This actually should say fees per terahash per second per day, or fees per day per terahash. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's 35 cents per day per terahash per second that you buy, and that's something that you got to realize when you buy a Hashflare mining contract. You buy it for $1.50 for 10 gigabits per second, or 10 gigahash per second, but you are also paying $1.27 over the course of that 1 year, no matter how much money your contracts make. So that's represented here in this fees. This is actually calculated here on this page. They have said this is their price, but if it ever were to change, theoretically, this tab would compensate for that. But right now, all over their website, they list 35 cents per terahash per day. Okay, so let's say we fill in our stuff, and I've just filled in here the date that I got to pay out, the amount of the payout, the fees, and this is all, by the way, from your Hashflare.io panel. So you can go, or sorry, for the history. So you can go in there on the panel into the history and take a look in there, and you can also just click on these links to go there if that's handy for you, panel/history. Okay, so we get this all filled in, and so we type in these three, and we type in our stuff down here. That gives us this very important number and some other different numbers that are used later on. So let's go then on our welcome sheet. Then we say it's time to go to the dashboard tab, and this is where you can set things. You set the start date, the investment capital, and all this stuff. So let's go over to dashboard. This is what it should look like. Now, if you take a look immediately and you go, these are some really weird prices for Bitcoin that he's expecting in the future. That's not how this works. You type in your own. So you make up whatever. So right now what I'm doing is I'm modeling, in this particular example, a scenario in which the price goes up, but then it crashes down. Okay, so it goes up a little bit. In a few months from now, it's maybe say 27,000 or whatever, but then it crashes down to 6,000, which is approximately commensurate with that the sort of downslope crash that it had in late 2013 and 2014, except for this one's happening over like half the time. That one was really like 2 years for it to get all the way to the bottom, but it went down to about a quarter of its value. So I'm just throwing some numbers in here, okay? But this is just representing what a crash scenario might look like after a price surge followed by kind of a resurgence of interest and people buying in. So this is just one way to look at it. Anyway, but let's not get bogged down quite yet in the price speculations. Day one investment, this is your initial capital. So if you put in $1,000 and you put anything else in, this total direct investment will also show $1,000. If you want to put money in direct investment later on, I have a place for you to do that. We'll do that over on the daily projections tab, and it says that here. These are the notes, obviously. The start date is the date. That's just so that there are dates in there. The spreadsheet doesn't actually depend on the actual date, but that's just so that you can see what's going on in certain days, so you put that in there. Now, okay, this is the annual difficulty increase, and this is very important. If you go and look up how much the Bitcoin mining difficulty, okay, first, Bitcoin mining difficulty is directly proportional to how many Bitcoins you're going to get for any number of terahash per second, approximately. So it seems to be directly proportional. I'm not saying it's exactly perfectly like 1-to-1, but it's basically linearly proportional to the current difficulty. And so if you go back and look at past difficulty numbers, you're going to find that over the last year, it increased by a factor about 5.1. So it's about 5.1 times the difficulty now that it was a year ago. And then over the previous year, it's 3.9 times. So between December of 2016 and December 2015, it went up, other way around, 15 to 16, it went up 3.9 times. But this is not linear. It doesn't go up in a straight line, it goes up in a curve. And so it's very important that we use an exponential function to get this number on each individual day, and that's happening over on daily projections. But just to give you some faith in the tool, this is definitely an appropriate function for doing this, is an exponential function that multiplies the difficulty over the year by this amount. So that means that 1 year from today, and this is an important thing for people to understand about Hashflare in general, 1 year from today, if Bitcoin's price doesn't change and whatever, it's all the same, but if difficulty goes up about like what it has, I put in the average is 4.5. 4.8 is a little bit pessimistic, whatever. But if it goes up by 4.8, on the last day of your mining contract, if you don't do any reinvestment, you don't add any more money, you will get 1 over 4.8 times what it says you're going to get today. So if it says you're going to get $10 today, you're going to be getting whatever that would be, like $2 and change on the last day of your contract. It's very important. And this is one of the biggest problems with other calculators I've seen is that they don't take into account the way that the difficulty actually increases, or worse, they actually just hold it static, or if they're linear or whatever. Okay, so we already kind of talked about this. This is pretty obvious. You can type in your future price speculations. Okay, so I'm gonna put in 31,000, I'm gonna put in 13,000. And you're gonna see as I do that, it takes a minute in the spreadsheet, because these are changing like almost everything when I type in new numbers here. A lot of stuff changes elsewhere. So it takes a little bit for these numbers over here, which are the ones we're interested in, we'll get to those in a second. It takes a little while for those to update. So have some patience. And see these ones are changing right now? That's indicating that it's gonna increase over here. So it took, what, I don't know, 10 seconds or something? So just have a little patience with that. But you know what you're doing here. This is where you speculate on how many billions of dollars Bitcoin is worth later. I mean, you can put in whatever you want. You can say it goes up to 100,000. You can say it crashes down to $10, whatever. And this is I think the real tool, the real power in the tool is being able to model future scenarios. Okay, speaking of modeling future scenarios, over here in the contract thing, this is for you to say, you know, Hashflare's prices are really great right now, but I'll tell you what, I don't think a year from now they're going to be able to have that price. I think it's going to go up. So if for any reason you think that Hashflare's prices are going to change, I'm not saying they're going to, but this is where you can go and make adjustments to that, and that way any reinvestment or later money that you directly invest will get added based on this number, not just on $1.50, in case you think it's going to go up. And honestly, I think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go up over time, but we'll see. Okay, then in the allocation of proceeds, this is this is like your investment strategy. This is where you say, okay, in the first quarter, I'm going to do this and this and this. So the three things you can do with your money, in my tool anyway, are you can reinvest it into Hashflare. That is at that moment, and this is actually calculated on a daily basis, but you could do it, you know, weekly or monthly or whatever. It's just good to get the compounding, daily compounding of doing it every day. But anyway, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to reinvest so much of my proceeds in the mining, or I'm gonna take that money, those Bitcoins, I'm gonna sell them for dollars, I'm gonna hold on to some dollars, or I'm just gonna sit with holding the Bitcoin. Again, light gray cells are the only things that we can edit in here, so that's why these ones are dark, is because they are based on these two. If you make a mathematical error, like I put in 50% and 55%, it'll warn you about that, so just so you know about that. And then these ones are grayed out because I didn't even want to go there. I didn't want to try to make a third year so we could see what reinvestments in the second year would be, and it just didn't even look that profitable. So I kind of dropped that concept. If you want to get under the hood and extend this spreadsheet, you know, that's totally doable. And contact me because I'd be happy to help with that. But right now that just was a pain. So, and also I just didn't think it was going to be that profitable after having messed with these numbers quite a bit. So hopefully this is obvious. So like here we're reinvesting 100%, selling none, holding none. Here we're reinvesting 50% of our proceeds into the Hashflare mining operation. We're selling off 25% of our proceeds, which is equal to $1,880, and we're holding in Bitcoin 25% of our proceeds as well. All right. So then when we get all the way over here, this is showing you in each of those quarters how much of your earnings are you selling off as dollars? How many are you holding as Bitcoins? And this right here is based on the Bitcoin value at that time. So this number right here, year one, quarter two. That's why you might have seen what looked like some discrepancy here, is that these two are never going to add up to this necessarily unless Bitcoin price stays the same over time. This is based on that quarter's Bitcoin price, that quarter's Bitcoin price, etc. These numbers are based on the final Bitcoin price, year three, quarter one, or end of year two. Just a kind of a nuance about how the math is done there. Not that important, but this is the number of Bitcoins that is equivalent to. Actually, this gets calculated first, and this is a derivative, doesn't matter. And then the monthly sale is just if you divide that over the month, just in case you're doing month-based income analysis, you can kind of see, oh, I get $627 a month during that quarter, something like that. All right. So your gross is the total amount that you sold, and then this is a gross total amount that you held, and your initial investment back over here, or sorry, actually your total investment over here gets subtracted from the gross to get your net. And if this were to go negative, I think I have it set up to start subtracting from here, but it's not that important because it'll be obvious this is negative. This particular cell can be negative because you could actually not make back your direct investment, if that makes sense. So that's why this could be negative. Anyway, this is the combined value. It's in bold. This is kind of the number this is one of two numbers, in my opinion, to watch as you change things. This is giving you a distribution of your portfolio. How much of it at the end of the day did you make from dollars versus from Bitcoin? And then there's some derivative numbers down here. The payoff days. How long is it going to take for your investment to pay off? Everybody's interested in that. And that's considering your reinvestment plan and stuff, right? So if I put these all at 0 right now, it'd be hanging out around 65 or something like that. The 2-year ROI is the other, I think, really important number to watch. Because a lot of people, like other YouTubers and stuff, have been going around making these videos. This is how you turn $300 into $30,000 and whatever. And they're expecting tens of thousands of percents of ROI. Which is totally unrealistic, and it's unfortunate that they're going around saying that to people. So this actually takes into account your direct investment through the net. It takes in the sale of Bitcoin at the end of the 2-year period, and it figures it out, and it tells you what your ROI is. And keep in mind that, like, if you invest in stocks, you're looking at, like, you know, best case scenario 2 years, like on like an index or something. You know, you might get like 25%. And you'll be doing pretty well. So anytime when you see like hundreds of percents of ROI in here, like that's not so bad. Don't worry about it if you're not getting tens of thousands. That was pie in the sky from the get-go, which I'm sure you know. So this is just showing us in year 1 and year 2 how much is sold. How much you actually sold during those times, in case that is useful for your calculating. So, all right, I think we covered pretty much everything that's going on here. Let's break this open just a little bit and go under the hood and see the daily projections tab. There is one thing over on daily projections that you can edit, and it's in this new investment. If we want to invest another $1,000 right here, we type in another $1,000, and you'll see that the gross Bitcoin has changed, and our mining investment right here is changed, and all that stuff. So this is where you can go and invest more. And if we go back over to the dashboard, you can see the day one investment was 1,000, but now our total direct investment is 2,000, and these numbers have come up. So just give you an idea what that's doing. I'll go ahead and take that out so we don't get confused. So each one of these is doing something independent and different. So if you want to go and change any of these, you really got to look and see what they're referencing and what's going on if you want to kind of get under the hood and make alterations. But I'll just kind of give you an idea what's going on. So this is how many Bitcoins you would have made on that day given your terahash, given the difficulty. Note that difficulty is not expressed in the, 15 gazillion difficulty, whatever the number is now, giga difficulties. This is just a coefficient. And so this is basically saying, oh, and by the way, this is only 7 days because I didn't know if you'd be at the beginning of the period, the end of the period, or the difficulty increase period or not. So I gave you halfway through the period on the first one. Every subsequent one is 14 days. There's that period. There's the next one. It's going for 14 days. And this is done at the beginning of each of those periods. It takes basically an exponential approach to the change in difficulty such that at 1 year, it will be 1 over this. Okay, it'll be 1 over that. So just for fun, 1 over 4.8 is, that's okay, 0.208. Okay, 0.208. I know, I just did that. Okay, so that means if we go down here and we go to 1 year, our difficulty, and I give you little markers at the quarter boundaries and stuff. One more quarter. Here we go, 1 year. So right in here, it would be 0.208. You can see here it's 0.203. Here it's 0.2147 there. So this is about halfway through that period. It's right on the money. It's right at about 0.208. So that's showing you just a double check to make sure that the exponential function is working like it's supposed to. If we were to extend this, so you notice that this cell does the exponential calculation, and the next 13 cells just reference that one because that's how the Bitcoin difficulty actually works. But if we were to drag this down here, we should see, I know. Bam, 0.208 right in between those 2 days. So right on the money. Okay. So the other things, like some of them are pretty obvious. The Bitcoin price is based on your future value of Bitcoin price. This is linear. I didn't make this an exponential growth thing because it could go down. I didn't know how that was going to affect it. So basically, if you type in, it's $1,000, and then the next time you type in it's $2,000, over that quarter, it will just increment it evenly down the quarter. If that makes sense. So that is a linear function that creates that. We have our reinvestment rate that we sourced. We saw exactly how much money it costs to buy 10 gigahash and so forth. We got a reinvestment percentage, how many during that quarter, what percentage of it is going to get reinvested. It shows you the reinvestment dollars and so forth. Most of these are really straightforward. The dollars of proceeds is the Bitcoin net, which is the gross minus the fees, times the current price and all that stuff. So I think a lot of this is probably pretty straightforward. See if there's anything over here. The payoff only has one thing in it ever, and it's just a number that's supposed to show us the, oh, it won't jump to it, sorry. It's in there somewhere. Anyway, it shows us the number of days it takes to pay off. The quarter, this is the handy thing for your navigation. If you want to just jump down here, if you're not a spreadsheet wizard yet, just hold Control and click down, and it'll jump you to the next quarter boundary, like that. Quarter 3, quarter 4, quarter 5, and so forth, or quarter 1 of year 2. Anyway, so that's what's going on in here on this page. All right, so now last thing is let's go back to the dashboard and let's do what the spreadsheet was designed for. Let's make some price speculations just for fun. Now again, I've put my difficulty increase here at 4.8. So let's do something interesting for a second. Let's make that 1, because this is Hashflare's calculator. Hashflare's own calculator claims that this is 1, and they're not in the business of making financial predictions. I'm not going to hold them to that. They're in the business of mining Bitcoins, but that's not accurate. That's like not a good way to do this. I'm going to show you why. So let's put in no reinvestment. Let's just say we're selling all of it. I can copy and paste these. If you copy and paste these, be careful to do paste special values only, or you'll kill my fancy formatting. All right, so this is going to come up at 0 when all the calculations have been made. So we're just kind of waiting for these to change, then these will change. And so we're saying Bitcoin price holds steady, annual difficulty is just 1, and we're just going to go ahead and sell it off. Still waiting for this thing to update. Here we go. Okay, awesome, awesome. So this is showing us, so this number right here is the same number that it would show on your 1-year hash panel revenue calculator thing, revenue forecast, for $1,000 of upfront investment if you then subtract out the fees. So right now the fees are along the lines of like 13% or so. And so if I actually, I have a cell here that's kind of hidden, but if I turn it white, I know. This is what your panel would say right now. It's this less the fees, basically. So this is some settings that you can use to kind of help check and make sure this is realistic to what the hash panel thing says, or Hashflare panel says, even though that panel is full of it. But here's, again, you would put this to 1, you put these all to whatever the current price is. When you're doing this assessment, you put either all these to 100% or 0, because if you hold the Bitcoins, it doesn't matter, since the Bitcoin price isn't changing over time. And this gross should be what it shows on your Hashflare panel for 1-year income minus the fees. All right, so we'll go ahead and hide this one again, just because we don't really need that right now. Because their panel is useless, it's not relevant. Okay, so we saw that these went up 5.1 and 3.9 fold per year, and you saw I had 4.8 in there. So I'm gonna put that back in. 4.5 is the average, whatever. So right now you can see we went down from 6,400 or whatever that was, 6,300 to under 3,000. That difficulty increase is really important, and people are totally missing it and not paying attention to it. Let's do that one more time, actually. Let's put the difficulty back, and let's also watch the 2-year ROI. Okay, this is with difficulty assumed to be at 1, and all the prices are holding steady. 2-year ROI, people are like, oh man, I'm gonna make 548% on my initial investment, but if we put in a more realistic figure for difficulty increase, we're looking at 195%. Now, again, compared to like stocks or especially things like bonds and whatever, that's fantastic. Like that's a great ROI. So I mean, we shouldn't be disappointed, but people were expecting these numbers to be way higher. So that's kind of the main reason why I made this. Let's try some other future scenarios. Let's do an immediate crash. Let's see, let's just do that over 4. So a quarter of its price, it just like crashes really fast. Actually, if we want to measure, or if we want to model the way that it did in 2013, let's have it crash over 4 months. So that's going to be 4,000. So this is going to be like 15,000. This is going to be like 10,000 and 4,000. Okay, great. And then let's say that it stays low, but oops, that's really low. And then it starts to come up a little bit. So this is one of the things I really want to do, is be able to model crash scenarios. Because then you can kind of play with your reinvestment versus sale versus hold and see what was going to be profitable there. So in this case, there we go. We just got an update on there. 72% ROI makes $722 on my $1,000 investment. So this is where we can start messing with this a little bit. We know we had faith back here, let's say, and we knew this was going to go back up by the end of this whole time. And so we decided early on we would try to throw some money into reinvesting here. So and also we're gonna hold the remainder. So let's just add 50% reinvestment in that very first quarter, and let's watch the ROI and the dollar number there. And we got to make that 50, or it's going to throw us a math error. I want to avoid the situation with the stupid slider things that they have on Hashflare, where you slide one and then it subtracts from the other ones, and you have a hard time controlling it. All right, I think that's our final update. And that didn't change very much. That reinvestment that everybody's talking about how great it's going to be didn't help us out a whole lot, because during the time that was mining these quarters, Bitcoin price went down, and our contract, it looks like, oh, yeah, even. This is really interesting. So our contract got canceled. Our contract got canceled when it went down to year 1, quarter 4. Now, what I'm referring to is I built into this calculator a policy that Hashflare has, which is their terms, section 5.5. It says that if your if your contract goes sub profitability, that means you don't make as many Bitcoins per terahash per day as the fees per terahash per day, then they suspend all your mining operations. And if in 21 days the price and or difficulty haven't returned to where it would be profitable, they terminate your account or they terminate your mining contract. And so it looks like that happened here. It looks like by Q4, when it had dropped down so far, we weren't making the fees. There's no zero, or they're all zeros after that, where there should be, at least into Q1 of year 2, there should be some income coming in, and we got nothing, and that's because our contract got canceled. So that's actually built into the daily projections tab. If you want to go down into here, so it's in the net. So this is kind of complicated, but if the last 21 things were 0, then it just puts in 0 because your contract is canceled, it's gone. And then if the last things were less than 0, then it also makes them 0 because the Hashflare doesn't have a policy where they're going to make you pay for any MEF fees that are greater than your income from their service. They don't have a mechanism to charge you to run their electricity when it becomes unprofitable. And then this is just, that's the original number that was before I put in that calculation. So that's over here. So that's actually being done. So let's put in another scenario. Let's do the one that everybody's so excited about. 40K toward the end of the year. So we'll put in like 32,000. Yep. And the next year, let's say it's going to do a steady increase up to down here. We're going to be at 100K. There we go. And just fill in some wet finger in the wind in between here. Put that 75. Represent a little bit greater growth. Cool. Okay, so we're looking at like 20-some% per quarter on our $1,000 investment over the next 2 years. All of a sudden, these things are looking way, way better. Interesting that, here's an interesting observation we can make here. It takes a really significant growth rate in order to get this number to be equal to a Hashflare panel revenue forecast. Because remember, this is approximately, we said about $7,400 for a $1,000 investment today at the current Bitcoin price. So it took like this huge growth and some reinvestment to get up to what we were seeing. So let's play with this reinvestment concept. Let's put this at 0 and this at 100. And this is what everybody's getting excited about right now, is the idea of doing the reinvestment. And it is legitimate, at least for a little while. But you saw where, if it goes down, if the Bitcoin price goes down, your contract gets canceled whether you've reinvested or not. So that's a problem. There we go, it just updated. So that reinvestment actually doubled our money. Reinvesting, and it was just, what was it, like 50% or was it 100? No, it was just 50%. It was 50% in the first quarter, doubled our actual net down here. Just waiting for it to calculate all those thousands and thousands of numbers and give us something back. And like I said, if you download it as an Excel, like it's really fast, but it doesn't work. So, all right, so yeah, it approximately doubled our income to reinvest 50% here. So let's put in 100% reinvestment just in the first quarter. And see, again, we're comparing to like 3,900, whatever that was, in our net if we reinvested 0. Now we're reinvesting 100 instead of 50. And there we go. All right, so 15,000. We've multiplied that by approximately 4 by reinvesting 100% in the first quarter under this particular very optimistic pricing scenario, right? That's very important, but this is what a lot of people are talking about. 40,000 sometime this year, 100,000 later. So, okay, so now let's try something else. This is just the kind of playing with this that I hope you'll be able to do by having your own copy. So let's try one more thing. Let's send this back to that 3,900-ish number of no reinvestment. And note that now we're holding this Bitcoin. I didn't put back in the sale number. And so our actual final number is much higher because we held on to 0.06 Bitcoins all the way down until it was worth $100,000 per Bitcoin. And all of a sudden we have $7,000 worth of Bitcoin. So that's an interesting thing. If we had sold that off right at the beginning, bam, we didn't have nearly as much money. So that's also interesting. If you think that down the road it's going to be worth quite a bit more, which I do, then selling it off is not looking so good. So people who are like, yeah, I'm going to quit my job because it says I'm going to make $89,000 this year and it's going to be however many a month, like, you're being misled so many different ways. But one of them is the idea that you should sell this money or this Bitcoin off for cash. Okay, then let's try one other thing. So here we are at this 3,800 number again. Let's put in a reinvestment. Remember, when we reinvested 100% here, it went from 3,800 to almost 16,000. So let's try that in the last quarter. If we put in 100 there in the last quarter, how much does it go up? Interesting. It only goes up another $1,500 or $1,700, whatever that is. So this is telling you something. The difficulty has increased. So when you reinvest clear down here, you are reinvesting over these quarters. You're getting income over these quarters. And during that time, the difficulty has gone up so much that that is just not making as many Bitcoins by then. Now, it still went up, but it only went up because these numbers are astronomical. So let's try something else. Let's copy this 40,000, and let's say that the Bitcoin price were to approximately stagnate during that time. Okay, it's going to be stagnant. Now that reinvestment that we made, look at that. That reinvestment that we made, all of a sudden is not that exciting. Now we didn't lose our contract. We never went below profitability. That's going to happen if Bitcoin is down in the 4 digits of price anytime after a couple of days from now, or days, sorry, after a couple of quarters from now. But in this case, we stayed above profitability and we still made some money. But if we put this back to 0 and 100 now at this new price speculation, there we go. So it made like $100 difference. It made almost no difference to us to do that reinvesting later. It made a lot of difference. Let's run that one more time just so you can see it. It made a lot of difference even in this price stagnation in year 2 scenario to do early reinvesting. We're waiting for it to calculate there. This is this 3,700 number. I'm kind of keeping an eye on this 3,700. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we're at 14,000 because we reinvested in that first quarter. So this is the thing. People are out there making videos about how exciting it is that you can reinvest, but it's just not that exciting as you get down in here. And again, that's part of why, in addition to not having to have a whole third year in here and a whole third row and everything, but third set of rows, but these just weren't looking that exciting. So I made those not usable. All right. I think that's probably way, way, way more than you want to know about how this spreadsheet works. Again, be patient with it because it does take 10 seconds or so to calculate when you're making big changes. But I really hope that this is going to give you the ability to start building some detailed plans in here that that might be useful. Let's do one more plan. Let's do one more. I'm having fun doing this. Let's do this one. Let's do reinvest 80% and 40% and none. And then you sell none, you sell 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and we'll hold at 50. Not that it will matter down here because I don't think we're getting any income. Throw the values in there. Okay. So this is one type of strategy. If you just want a hint about something that has been working for me, this strategy where you're doing some selling, some holding, you could do a little bit more selling earlier, I guess. In fact, let's go ahead and throw that in. So we'll do 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Those last ones aren't going to matter because we got no income in there. So a little bit of mix between selling and holding with early but quickly tapering off reinvestment. This, on different numbers I've plugged in over here on the price scenario with crashes or big gains in the Bitcoin price, something resembling this has actually done pretty well across the board. It's one of the least likely ones so far to go negative and not actually return or have the contract canceled. So just a tip for you guys if you want to try one that's been working well for me, but you're going to find one that works even better for you and your investment amount and when you're investing and reinvestment plan and all that stuff. So, all right. So again, this was a big thing to make. And if you want to actually go and invest in Hashflare, or if you want to just throw me a couple milli Bitcoins in here, I have some links for that. I obviously have the sign up link for the Hashflare referral thing and some donation addresses if this was really helpful to you. And I really hope this is going to help dispel some of the myths out there and some of the hand waving that's going on using totally illegitimate calculation methods in calculators and stuff on things like on directly on Hashflare, on coinwars.com, the one that they link to, and the ones that other YouTubers have been using. So, all right, guys, enjoy the tool and good luck.